Hello. Happy marvelous Monday, everybody. I hope that you are well. I hope that your week has started off with a bang. We are in the second month of the year. Can you believe it? February is already here. I just celebrated another birthday. Thank you all for all the birthday love that came in. Yes, I indeed turned 27 again. Okay, but don't judge me. It's all good. Listen, I'm excited that you're here. I'm Karissa Spann, the abundantly blessed landlord and tenant expert, and this is what I do each and every Monday. I come on, I jump on live to share information for landlords, to share information for tenants. Why? To positively impact the entire rental community. I promise that the information that I share today is not legal advice. However, I will be sharing the industry's best tips and practices. And today I'm talking about tougher tenancy laws for 2024. If you are a landlord, this is the time to tune in. If you know someone who is a landlord, this is the time to tune in. So for all of those who are investors, if you are an investor, if you're thinking about getting into rental property management, maybe you're currently in property management, this is definitely the time to tune in. I promise that this information is going to help somebody. So please make sure that if you find this information of value today, that you like, you tag, you share it with someone else. As I'm talking about tougher tenancy laws, I've been made aware of a few lawsuits. I've been made aware of some changes that came from the Office of Attorney General regarding housing discrimination. And some landlords have found themselves in the hot seat. And so, I am a little bit saddened to have to keep talking about these stories and sharing these stories. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that the entire rental community is knowledgeable about the changes that are taking place. And so this segment today, whether you're watching the live or the replay, is for landlords, it's for tenants, it's for those of you who have rental property, it's for new investors, what not to do if you are new, if you are inexperienced. You want to keep yourself from out the hot seat. Now, here's the thing. Now, before I get into the conversation or the discussion for today, here's what a lot of people don't know or recognize or maybe understand, whatever the three, right? But what you don't know can and will hurt you. And just because you don't mean or intend to discriminate, the laws don't care that you didn't know. All right. That's why I share this information. It costs nothing but your time to show up. Now, of course, if you want coaching or consulting, then that comes with the cost. But every week that I show up, this information is free 99. So I hope that at the end of the day, or by the end of this broadcast, that someone who has been negatively impacted because a landlord has discriminated will understand as a tenant their rights and their responsibilities, and as a landlord, what not to do. So I'm going to get into it. Please let me know where you're tuned in from. I love to know where you're tuned in from. Hey, Christina Sheena, thank you so much for the birthday love. It's all good. I'm super excited that you are here. I do appreciate you, ma'am. Yes, I do. I hope that you had a great weekend. Listen, this weather has been amazing. I have enjoyed this weather absolutely. And I hope to be on a cruise within the next couple of weeks because I typically cruise for my birthday every year. It's been my tradition for the past 3, 4 years to go on a cruise every year for my birthday. So without further ado, let me get into the discussion. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure that if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, that you go over to YouTube, find me at Landlord Lyfe with Karissa Spann. Smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you'll be the first to know when I am live and online. Is that all right? Now, I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody who's celebrating a birthday in the month of February. Okay. If you are an Aquarius, I celebrate you. If you're not an Aquarius, I still celebrate you. I know some of you who are watching, you may not celebrate birthdays, and that's your jam. I'm okay with that. But for me and mine, I celebrate. Okay. And again, I just celebrated my 27th birthday again. All right. So, but let's get into the conversation for today. So, unfortunately, I do have to share this information because some landlords have been hit hard with some lawsuits and some fines because they have discriminated against housing discrimination. So they discriminated against tenants. And here is what I want people to understand. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. That's something that I share frequently. I also share that if you treat your business like a business, it's going to pay you like a business. If you treat it like a hobby, it is in fact going to pay you like a hobby. And so with that, with treating your business like a business, you should always know what the laws are. And so I'm going to share 3 tips today really quickly for landlords because my goal is to help some of you to avoid some of the pitfalls and the nightmares and the mistakes that others have made as a landlord and or as a housing provider. Now, here's the thing. I have landlords and the housing providers who tune in the DC metropolitan area, some who I know personally, and I'm starting to see more and more mistakes that they're making because they just, I don't know, for whatever reason, don't listen to the information that I share. And that's unfortunate for them because the laws are in place to protect tenants. Now, let me just say this, especially in jurisdictions that are super heavy or super over the top in favor of tenants. Those are not the areas, those are not the jurisdictions to play around with and violate the law. I promise it's not. Because all it takes is one bad mistake to go wrong, and that's your rental business. Listen, I know a young lady, met her personally, sweetheart. She had to shut her business practice down because she found herself on the wrong side of the table, violating laws. You never want that. That's bad for business. That's bad. That's bad for your bottom line. As a housing provider, you definitely don't want to make that mistake. But here are the tips that I want to share for landlords on today as it pertains to the tougher tenancy laws in 2024. They're only going to get worse, not just in the DMV area, not just in New York, but throughout the nation. As a matter of fact, do yourself this favor. If you're a landlord, I want you to Google tougher laws in the United States in 2024 and see how many court cases come up. Because here is why that is so important. You want to know what not to do. And so as a landlord, you want to make sure that you stay informed. You want to make sure that you update yourself on the laws, the latest changes, not just in your local laws, but also federal laws. Here's why that's important. So fair housing. The Fair Housing Act came into play in 1968 to prevent discrimination. So the fair housing laws have recently made updates to protected classes. And if you don't know what the fair housing laws cover and the protected classes, you can do something and violate fair housing laws unknowingly. And just because as a landlord, you may not know the laws, it doesn't prevent a tenant or a prospect even from taking you to court or filing a claim against you. It doesn't have to be a tenant. I've seen some court cases where prospects sued landlords. They never even completed the application. They never paid rent. but they won court cases against a landlord because they discriminated in their advertising and in their marketing. There are just some things that you cannot do. And just because you don't know it does not make you exempt from the law. And I hope that you're hearing me on today. For those of you who are not as knowledgeable about the laws, okay, please make sure that you are staying up to date with federal, with local, and state laws if you're in a state. Now, DC is not a state, so there are local laws and there are federal laws that impact Washington, DC, but every other area, DC is not a state, but Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, California, Texas, there are 3 sets of laws that governs how landlords must do business in all of those areas. Okay, so please stay up to date with that. Now, let me just speak to the communication part. When you as a landlord are communicating with a tenant, with a prospect, with an applicant, please make sure that you are maintaining clear lines of communication. Please be fair. Please be equal with everybody. Whether it's verbal, whether it's in writing, please make sure that your lines of communication is clear. Sometimes misunderstandings happen because you don't have a streamlined process. Maybe you say one thing to one prospect, you say something different to another, and then you find yourself in a situation where you later find out that they were testers. They were testing you, because this is what we're going to see more of in 2024. So hear me when I say this. Understand that the laws are getting stricter, they're getting tougher, and in order for this to happen, there have had to be a lot of complaints. Okay, so tenants have complained, prospects and applicants, they've complained that they were being discriminated against. They communicated that to the policymakers, and these changes have come about. But now here is what a lot of people don't realize, that with these new changes in policies and the regulations, that people are going to test landlords. They're going to test them to see if they're still practicing the way that they originally were practicing their rental property business. So when there's a new law, when there's a new regulation, when there's a new bill, whether it's introduced, whether it's proposed, or is actually implemented, there are going to be testers out there to verify that landlords are knowledgeable and they're not violating the law. It's not an acceptable practice to continue to doing business the same way that you once did it. Now, I know that sometimes people are comfortable. I know that change is uncomfortable, but seasons change and seasons bring change. And so in this new season in 2024, please know that as the laws are changing, there are going to be testers to confirm and verify that landlords are in compliance. Okay, so I see your comment, Christina. Let me come to the comment section. All right, and if you have a question or comment, please put it in the comment box. I will respond to it. I see that I'm live on Facebook, I'm live on LinkedIn, and I'm also live on YouTube. All right, so let me pull up your comment, your question. I'm a first-time voucher holder. I just want to share some of my experiences. Number one, the first is no, I don't take vouchers. All right. So you've had landlords who said they don't take vouchers. 2, you've heard them say, no, I don't take vouchers, and I only have a rental license and never will qualify to rent to HCVP. The third is, sorry, housing would not pay what I'm asking for, so I'm not renting to voucher holders. Fourthly, I did an application with the landlord, never told them I was a voucher holder until after being approved. Then when it came time to meet to finish and produce paperwork, when I gave them my voucher, I was told, where's the rest of your comment? Let me see here. I was told, let me see. I was told the voucher holder, sorry, I must decline your approval. I'm not accepting vouchers. This has been some of my experiences. All right. So Let me address each one of those. All right, your first one, you said a landlord told you that they don't accept vouchers. Well, here's the thing. Income is a protected class under fair housing laws. So if a landlord is saying, I don't accept vouchers, that's discrimination under income, which is a protected class. So if you are a landlord in DC, if you know somebody who is a landlord in DC, and I know that there are real estate agents, there are brokers who watch my live, they tune in. If you are working with clients who own rental property, income is a protected class. Okay. A lot of states, a lot of local authorities are now changing the law to make sure that tenants are protected. So for a landlord to say, no, I do not accept the Section 8 voucher. No, I do not rent to people who are in the voucher program. That is, in fact, discrimination at its best. I know that people are not comfortable with Section 8. I know that there is a lot of negative conversation about Section 8, and I get it. Sometimes you hear those bad stories, but let me just say that as a housing professional, and I have worked at multiple housing agencies in the span of over 18 years, that there are some really great stories that come out of Section 8 tenants. And just because a person has a Section 8 voucher does not mean that they're going to tear up your place. It does not mean that they're going to be a bad tenant. Okay. But as a landlord, you cannot just emphatically state that you don't accept vouchers as the initial foundation of your response or conversation. That could be perceived as and should be viewed as discrimination. So let me go to your second comment. Christina Sheena, you said, no, I don't take vouchers and I only have a rental license and never will qualify to rent to HCVP. So that is someone who is not knowledgeable. So if they say they have a renter's license, but they won't qualify for HCVP, well, let me just say this, that maybe they're not knowledgeable, or maybe they're not willing to make the necessary repairs to rent to voucher participants. Now, here's the thing, because it is true that in order for a Section 8 tenant to rent that property, it must be inspected and it must pass inspection before the agency will approve it. And some landlords are not willing to spend the money to make the repairs in order for their property to pass inspection. So maybe that landlord is not knowledgeable, or maybe they realize that there's just some work. There's work that's necessary, and they're not willing to pay that money for the tenant to move in. I recently did an inspection. Well, I won't say recently, it was last year, 2023. I did an inspection about maybe 3 months ago, and the owner had a lot of brickwork and concrete work to do in order for that rental property to pass inspection. And so one of the things that I did, a service that I do provide, my team and I will go out, we'll inspect the property to make sure that landlords are prepared to pass the inspection the first time, because we already know that vacant rentals don't make money, right? So I went out, conducted the inspection, and there was a whole laundry list of repairs that were needed. And fortunately for the tenant who moved into that property, that owner had the money to make those repairs. But now that's not the case for everybody. All landlords and all owners don't have the financial means to make sure that the repairs are completed and are in compliance in order for tenants to move in. In some cases, I'll go as far as to say that in many cases, some landlords, especially the smaller landlords, they're barely just getting by. They're barely making ends meet. And so they're trying to quickly fill those vacant rentals. They don't have thousands of dollars sitting around to make repairs so that a tenant can move in. They will rent it the way that it is to whoever will accept it. So I don't know if that's the situation, Christina Sheena, but if it's not the latter, then that landlord might not be knowledgeable. So let me go to your third one. You said Sorry, housing will not pay what I'm asking for, so I'm not renting to voucher holders. I hear that a lot. I get that a lot. And because landlords want to treat their business like they're like a business, they want to get as much money as possible. And so if unfortunately the program will not approve the rent, so let's just say, for instance, this landlord has a 3-bedroom property, right? And they're asking for $4,000, but the most that the agency would pay could be, let's say, around 3,500 or 3,800. Let's go 3,900, which is $100 less than what that landlord is looking for. That landlord has obviously and already done some research to know that the agency will not approve the rent. Now, that's one way that landlords have been able to not rent to voucher participants, because they know that the agency will not approve that rent amount. But now here's the thing. When it comes to asking for more in rent, if it is a tester, as a landlord, please hear me on this. If you tell a voucher participant, oh, the rent is $4,000, but yet you rent it to someone else for $2,800, and maybe that was a tester, somebody come back and verify that you rented the property, they find out how much you rented it for, that could be a really bad situation. All right. You don't want to do that. When I tell you that there are testers out there, people have full-time jobs testing landlords. I'm going to say that again. Being a tester is a full-time job for a lot of people. Okay. All they do is test landlords. That's it. That's their only job, to test landlords. Now, this is what they get paid to do. And so that's why we're starting to see a lot more lawsuits and cases come up. I said it in 2023, and I guess I'm going to say it for 2024. We are going to see a lot more lawsuits filed against landlords, because some landlords either don't watch my live, they don't watch the replay, or maybe they just flat out don't pay attention to the information that I am sharing. But it's not going to stop the law from going after them. Okay, so Christina, let me go to your next one. You said you did an application with the landlord. You never told them that you were a voucher holder until after you were approved. So to me, that sounds like discrimination. It does sound like discrimination. And if that has happened to you, I would strongly recommend to follow up and contact HUD, contact an authority to see whether or not that landlord has in fact discriminated against you. Listen, it is no fun to be discriminated against under no stretch of the imagination. It's not fun. So as a tenant, I can only imagine how that makes you feel if you are approved for rental property. You've gone through the background check. You met all of the criteria. There were no conditional improvements or contingencies for you moving into the rental property. The only thing that happened was you revealed, or you shared with them, that you are a voucher holder, and now all of a sudden they cannot move forward with renting to you. Landlords have done that, which is why I tell landlords in advance. In my coaching program, I work with landlords. I have a 6-week coaching program. One of the things that I tell landlords in the coaching session is this: always ask up front whether or not that prospect is a participant in any type of housing program. But now I share that for a different reason, because if there is a prospect who is participating in a housing program, there are hundreds, when I say hundreds of programs, right? There are so many housing programs and resources available that landlords should know and understand which program that person is in, so that they can get information, because not all housing programs are the same. You have Section 8, you have the local vouchers, you have federal vouchers, there's rapid rehousing, there are vouchers specifically for veterans, there is community connection. Like there are so many programs available There are local subsidies, there are federal subsidies, and different pots of money, different types of programs. You have housing up, and the list goes on and on and on. I just shared a few, right? But there are so many housing programs, and sometimes the rules can be different. And so you want to understand which program this prospect or the tenant is in so that you can understand what the requirements are. Do you need a renter's license? Do you need a license to manage the property? These are just some things that you should know when you are a landlord, when you are a housing provider, right? You want to make sure that there are no barriers. Ask questions up front so that you don't find yourself in a situation whereas it looks like you're discriminating, right? And so this is what I wanted to share on today, because 2024 is going to look different for a lot of landlords. These tougher tenancy laws are in place to protect tenants. Let me just say this, that there is a federal push for the federal government to maintain and to preserve affordable housing. There's this great push throughout the United States to end homelessness. Okay. And so, in order for that to happen, they have to toughen up the laws. They have to make sure that the laws are a lot stricter, because if not, we're going to see more people out on the street. We're going to see more people homeless. And that is not what they want. So, the laws are going to be stricter. The laws are going to be tougher. And I will continue to share this information. I'll keep showing up every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I may be on other platforms, right? But definitely make sure that you are following me on my YouTube channel. All right. You're welcome, Christina. It is my pleasure. So I wanted to share that today. Because I know that a lot of people are not knowledgeable. They don't know this. But now here's another way that landlords have discriminated. Landlords have discriminated when it comes to making repairs. Some landlords have discriminated against tenants by not making repairs. That is a violation. That is a prohibited practice. You cannot treat your business like a business and not make repairs. That's like shooting yourself in the foot. If you have a rental property, at the end of the day, don't you want to make sure that the property is preserved, that the repairs are completed? Listen, I get it. I know that sometimes as a landlord, it's heartbreaking to put hundreds and thousands of dollars in the rental property, only for sometimes tenants to tear it up. I get it. But you still want to make sure that you are adhering to the federal law, which requires you to maintain housing that's decent, safe, and sanitary. If you sign a lease, like I said, if you've signed a lease, that is a legally binding document. You are required to adhere to the terms and the conditions that you have in your rental lease with your tenant. If your tenant tears up the property, put holes in all the walls, you are still responsible to make sure that you are treating your business like a business, and that you are, number one, look at the lease. What is in writing? Who's responsible for that damage? I know that it doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. And financially, it's just not feasible to have to pour from the depth of nothingness to maintain that rental property. And so when those type of things happen, when that behavior is there, when you see tenants whose actions are repeatedly on steroids, where they're just constantly tearing up the property, enforce your lease, meaning take the tenant to court versus not making repairs, because the tenant could be 100% wrong. And I've seen it happen. The tenant was 100% wrong, and yet they took the landlord to court because the landlord didn't make repairs. And when they got to the court level, the judge asked the landlord about repairs. And then the tenant came up with a laundry list of issues, allegedly, that they told the landlords were needed. And now here comes the hammer against the landlord, because the landlord didn't make repairs. And the landlord was like, listen, I did not know about all these extra things, but when we last did the inspection at the property, there were holes in the walls. The property was infested with bed bugs. The tenant had excessive clothes all over the floor. There was a dog in the property that used the bathroom. There were feces all throughout the property. The tenant refused to clean up. And because that landlord didn't enforce the lease, the landlord didn't send tenant notices, the landlord didn't take pictures, it wasn't what the landlord knew, is what the landlord could prove. And so the landlord couldn't prove any of that. But the tenant did. The tenant took pictures. The tenant made complaints. And so the judge laid the hammer down hard against that owner. Is it fair? Absolutely not. But it's not fair that as a landlord, they're not treating their business like a business. So please, each and every Monday, this is what I do. I'm sharing information because I want to help you as a landlord, and I want to help you as a tenant to understand what your rights are. If you have questions, I am available. Please email me. But please, more than anything, make sure that you show up each and every Monday right here. That's my email address. Show up each and every Monday right here, 7:30 p.m. every week. This is where you can find me. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm sharing information to help landlords. I'm sharing information to help tenants to positively improve the rental community. I thank you for joining me today. I hope that this was helpful for somebody. I know that it might be a repeat for some. I know that some of you know this information, but I wanted to share this. I want you to know that in 2024, there are definitely going to be tougher tenancy laws in place. Okay? My time is up. I thank you for yours. And again, please go to that YouTube channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any questions, if you are a landlord and you need some help with your rental property, you need to know how to attract quality tenants, you want to avoid nightmares, you want to avoid pitfalls, consider I want to share my email address. I want to share my website so that you can find more information about services that I provide. I can't give a full hour. I can't give a full 2 hours. I can't give a full 12 hours, but I can help you in my coaching program, or you can continue to show up each and every week. And again, let me share my email address. So that's the website there, landlordlife.com, to email me. That's the email address right there. Please email me, info@landlordlife.com. All right. So I thank you. Again, my time is up. I thank you for yours. Please make sure that you tune in every Monday right here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Listen, I'm Karissa Spann, the abundantly blessed landlord and tenant expert. It has been a pleasure having you join me today. And if you're watching a replay, thank you so much. I'll see you all next week. Same station, same time, with more information.